Okay, it's early in the morning, but I wanted to get this out because this is very, very germane, and where I'm heading right now, I might never make it out again, so we'll see. But I wanted to put this up before I was unable to, so here we go.
Still, yet another major story and theory is that in the aftermath, the government wants to take the land away from the owners to control those mountain areas because they have large deposits of lithium, the largest in the country, perhaps the world, and other minerals necessary to make electric car batteries and weapon systems. The problem with that is that the government must have justifiable reasons to take private property. Even if they invoke eminent domain, the owners must be adequately compensated. But of interest, Kamala Harris's husband, 𝗢𝗰𝗿𝗍𝗍, is a shareholder along with BlackRock in lithium mining, and he applied for a lithium mining permit on September 24th. Think about that for a second. According to the Forbes report, adding to the conspiracy theory, Steve Peters stated in a video, "Here's an interesting fact about the region of North Carolina. It sits on the biggest lithium deposit in the United States. As the United States government and its buddies in the central banking corporate crime syndicates stand to make billions and trillions of dollars off of these lithium deposits that are underneath towns, underneath homes, underneath schools, and they can't get access unless the land is somehow completely cleaned off and available for mining. What better way to do that than by washing away the people who live there and all that they own and blaming it on climate change?" In another series of reports in Tennessee, the Madison County Sheriff's Department is investigating a September 26th incident at the TA Travel Center in Denmark, Tennessee. 56 tires on 8 tractor trailers parked at the truck stop overnight had their tires flattened, loaded with relief goods. One of the affected rigs had all 18 tires slashed. A suspect was caught on camera, and a $31,000 reward is being offered for information leading to his arrest. Suspect was caught on camera, and a $31,000 reward is being offered for information leading to his arrest.
So this clip was sent in by a subscriber of mine who lives in Illinois, I believe, or Kansas. I'm not exactly sure. But she's at the Social Security office because she's an American. She's doing American things. And she discovers all of these people wearing work jackets, we'll call them.
I'm at the Social Security office in Lenexa. I was here earlier, but I didn't get video. There are at least a dozen undocumented looking construction workers waiting to be called into the Social Security office.
So 2 things. Take note that these people, when they notice somebody is filming them, they all make sure they turn away and put their hoods up. But why in the world would a construction company have all their workers suddenly go to the Social Security office during work hours? This is a non-governmental organization simply putting what appears to say Hermes construction jackets on a bunch of undocumented people and trying to slide them through the goalie. This is how devious these people are.
Kansas does not ever see anything like this.
And then finally, this is the Venezuelan gangs that were released from Venezuela. And bear in mind, Venezuela refuses to take these people back. They refuse to take these Venezuelan citizens that they dumped on America back.
Started out as a robbery crew, upwards of 50 robberies, 20 individuals arrested for upwards of 50 robberies, and out of those 20 individuals, every single one of them is on the streets today. So
that's crazy. Now, there are reports that they're operating the Roosevelt Hotel, which used to be a very nice hotel in New York City. Now it's a migrant shelter. What are we talking about? What's going on inside this hotel that is now spilling out into the Times Square?
There's actually a recruitment process. It's actually a subset of a gang, Tren de Aragua, which we've heard so much about. They call themselves Los Diablos de la 42 Crew, standing, in other words, the little devils of 42nd Street. So these are individuals that hover in and around 42nd Street. They're basically a robbery crew, you know, and they've gone in and around Central Park, in and around Times Square, and we like them for committing upwards of 22 robberies, and they range anywhere from snatches to wolf pack type robberies. When I talk wolf pack type robberies, I'm talking anywhere between 4 and upwards of 16 individuals surrounding soft targets, tourists, and taking them of their possessions, and weapons used, knives to upwards of guns.
Yeah. I mean,
SAPD, we received several complaints from an apartment complex in the 300 block of Sahara Drive about multiple narcotics violations, human trafficking, and threats to apartment personnel. So early this morning, the task force, including members of SAPD, Covert Unit, the Human Exploitation Unit, the Texas Anti-Gang Unit, members of Texas Department of Public Safety, and the FBI, U.S. Border Patrol, and Homeland Security began an operation at this apartment.
So bear in mind, before all of these Venezuelan gangs were released from Venezuelan prison and sent to the United States and then flown over by our own government, which is just something you can look up, or you probably won't. I don't know. We already had our own gang issues. Now we have even more. Do you see what's going on here? This is absolutely insane, and this is everywhere. Texas, Kansas, Chicago, Salt Lake City, California, etc., etc., etc.
All right, get this. Federal authorities in El Paso relinquishing custody of a man linked to this violent jewelry robbery. This happened back in June in Denver. So our partners at News Nation, they're reporting it's part of a Venezuelan gang. They do report Homeland Security officials turned over the suspect, Gene Torres Roman, to the Denver County Sheriff's Office. The brutal robbery caught on video shows several young men pulling guns, even pistol whipping 2 women. So a few days after, El Paso SWAT officers took several people into custody, happened at a motel, and reportedly Torres was there. It's not clear what the status of the other people taken into custody are either.
Is speaking out about the escalating gang violence, accusing local officials and media of downplaying the presence of Venezuela gangs in her community. Cindy Romero, who left her apartment earlier this year due to safety concerns, described the situation as increasingly dangerous. I feel like it's a slap in the face, Romero told Fox News Digital. How many gangs are acceptable in Aurora? How many people need to be displaced? Her comments come as GOP vice presidential candidate Senator J.D. Vance and ABC's Martha Radas clashed over former President Donald Trump's claims that Venezuela gangs, particularly the transnational Tren de Aragua, have taken over apartment complexes in Aurora. Radas argued that the incidents were isolated to a few properties, while Vance responded, only a handful of apartment complexes were taken over, and Trump is the problem, not the open border policies.
Venezuelan groups were involved in a weekend shooting in Harriman. It's our top story tonight on 2 News at 6. Thanks for joining us. I'm Heidi Hatch.
I'm 𝗲𝗷𝗄. Now, that's what the Metro Gang Unit is saying today, a claim that may draw more attention to this crime. Our Brian 𝗲𝗍𝗄 live in Harriman for us tonight. And what are you police saying about suspects here, Brian?
He is 19 years old. His name is Alejandro Palmar Romero. Harriman has had an influx of Venezuelan migrants. It doesn't know how many. Next door in Colorado, news reports, including in the Denver Post, of Venezuelan gang members charged in more than a dozen criminal incidents over nearly the last year.
Oh, Utah, here's another fun one. So yesterday, 9/26/24, we reported that there was a Venezuelan gang involved in a shooting in Harriman, Utah. Local news and local police wanted you to think that it was just a group downplaying the severity of this gang going across the United States of America. This happened in Harriman, Utah, which is a very conservative town just southwest of Salt Lake City. But now we're finding out just a few days ago that just north of Salt Lake City, in a very conservative town called 𝗢𝗰𝗁, this happened. J. Luke Taylor said this: "It's not often I get into politics, but sometimes things hit close to home that force you to think more carefully about the things that matter most. Last week, while I was out of town for work, I received a call from my daughter at 7 a.m. When I answered, she said, 'Dad, I think I'm going to die,' in a tone that sent shivers down my spine. I immediately knew something was very wrong. After trying to understand what was happening for what seemed like an eternity, my son finally ran my daughter's gab watch downstairs, where I heard my wife weeping to a 911 dispatcher on the phone. On Wednesday the 18th, while my two older kids were in my kitchen getting ready for school, my daughter noticed a man in a black hood carrying a baseball bat over his shoulder attempting to break into my house through the back door. He was wearing one black latex glove on his left hand and was making his way around the house to the other doors. The kids immediately ran upstairs to tell Erin, who was with a sleeping Benny in our bed, that someone was trying to get into the house, and without hesitation, she locked the kids in the most secure room in the house, grabbed the gun, and called 911 and ran downstairs. This man was high as a kite, out of his mind, and my wife witnessed him get into the outside detached garage as she had police on the phone. Response was excellent, and handling the situation was great. The police arrived just as he was sneaking back out of the garage and told him to put his hands in the air. He was cooperative. They finally arrested him at gunpoint after I had to listen over the phone. Never felt more helpless in my life, and my wife sobbed in fear of her life and our kiddos' lives. It turned out the man was here illegally, with no documentation. He had weapons in his pockets and bags filled with alcohol. Almost a week has gone by, and I'm still getting woken up several times at night to a jolting, on-edged wife who is experiencing night terrors, whose brain hasn't been able to shut down since the event. There's about a million things I could say about what happened and the aftermath of what my wife and kids are experiencing. But if this can happen in 𝗢𝗰𝗁, Utah in broad daylight on a weekday, it can happen anywhere."
And the scariest thing about all of this is all the police agencies are being told to downplay this. Sometimes they're even saying it's not the right color person. You know what I mean? They're saying it was a white guy. It's just amazing how they're downplaying all of this. But this is part of the plan. And also, I just wanted to remind you of this, because this is just, again, some crazy conspiracy theory coincidence, I'm sure.
But of interest, Kamala Harris's husband, Doug 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗲, is a shareholder along with BlackRock in lithium mining, and he applied for a lithium mining permit on September 24th. Think about that for a second.
Now, for those that aren't keeping score, September 24th was the day before the hurricane showed up in North Carolina. What a strange coincidence, right? I mean, strange coincidence. How these people always do this as the event is occurring or the day before the event is occurring. This isn't a mistake. This is a plan. Richie from Boston. I'm out.